Khao Piek Sen translates to wet rice noodle in Lao. This traditional Lao noodle dish is a chicken noodle soup that is a heart and comfort food for many Lao people, including myself. The only 3 ingredients you will need to make this noodle is tapioca flour, rice flour, and sometimes glutinous rice flour.
Sabaidi Pinang, hi fam, welcome back to Saeng's Kitchen. When it comes to Asian noodles, there are endless varieties. My favorite Lao noodle is called Khao Piek Sen, and it's made out of tapioca flour and rice flour. So for this episode, we're going to take a closer look at 3 different recipes, textures, and how to make it. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and grab a large bowl and add the rice flour and then the tapioca flour, and then you want to whisk these 2 flours together. Once it's well mixed, then grab your boiling hot water and carefully add it into the bowl. And go ahead and grab a spoon or a wooden spoon and mix this together until all the flour is well mixed. One thing you need to worry about is how fast you make these noodles. This dough is created with hot temperatures, so that means it's going to dehydrate and also crumble really fast. So be quick on your noodle process. And once it's warm enough for you to touch with your hands, go ahead and start kneading it with your hands. Okay, grab all that extra dry flour around it and start kneading it really well. And if it becomes crumbly or it looks too dry, you can go ahead and add like a tablespoon of hot water, and that should bring the dough together. But don't add too much water. Continue kneading. And eventually you should get to this really smooth dough. The dough does not need to sit like wheat dough because it doesn't have any gluten proteins. So the elasticity of wheat dough changes as we knead it, but this type of dough, it doesn't change whether we knead it more or less. So go ahead and work with it real fast so it doesn't dry out. Now that our dough is done, we're gonna start working with it right away. So go ahead and clear off your working space and dust your working space with some rice flour. Then place your dough on top and then add some extra rice flour on top of the dough. And with the rolling pin, you're gonna roll the dough right on out. It should be about a 1/4 inch thickness, and width-wise, it'll be about 6-inch noodles, and you should have a very long strand. And so there's gonna be some rough edges, and so I'm gonna go ahead and cut those off. And now I'm gonna cut this long strand right into the middle and stack them on top. And if your noodle strands are very long, then go ahead and cut it in the middle again and stack it right on top. And now this depends on how thick or thin you like your noodles. So I like mine in the middle. I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting my noodles and how thick I want them. Once you have all the noodles cut up, go ahead and again sprinkle it with rice flour. Make sure nothing sticks. And you can grab all the noodles together and kind of play with them for a bit until everything is really well dusted with some rice flour. And that's also gonna be a thickener for your noodles if you want your noodle soup to be thick. So if you made a lot of noodles, you can go ahead and wrap it in plastic so that it doesn't dry out. Our noodles are done and we're gonna go cook them. Like many other noodles, these are very porous, so it's gonna soak up all that liquid really fast. So eat all your noodles in one setting. If you're gonna make a lot of noodles, you can cook a bunch, drain it, and then put it in the fridge, and it should last for a few days. And when you're ready, go ahead and warm up your broth and add your noodles right in. When cooking the noodles, it also depends on preference. Some people like cooking it right into the broth, and that thickens up the noodle soup just a bit. And other people like cooking it outside in a separate pot. So whatever you prefer, go ahead and do it. I'm gonna cook mine in a separate pot for now. So bring your pot to a rolling boil and then go ahead and drop all your noodles in, and it should take about 2 to 3 minutes. After it finishes cooking, go ahead and take it out and put it into the serving bowl. And there you go, you have your Khao Piek Sen noodles. My first recipe is my standard go-to mixture. It is a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning it is 1 part rice flour and 1 part tapioca rice flour. And the main characteristic of this recipe is that it is bouncy. The second recipe adds more rice flour, and you're gonna notice that it is more white than the original standard. And the main characteristic of this recipe is that it's gonna be a softer noodle. So I would suggest a thicker noodle for this type of recipe. And finally, the third recipe includes a third ingredient, the glutinous rice flour. And so we all know that glutinous rice flour is very sticky. And so when we add it to this noodle, what happens? The noodle becomes a little bit sticky. So the main characteristic is that you're gonna get a chewy noodle, but also a semi-sticky outside. And that's how you make Khao Piek Sen noodles. Let me know if you've tried different textures or variations of this noodles. If you like this video, go ahead and comment, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you all on another episode of Saeng's Kitchen. Bye!